keep them going backwards. We're on forward. We're southbound instead of northbound, and the this is southbound. Anyway, that was part-time. We're going to going southbound here. I'm going to be at the back of the train all the time because the engineer. We got radio communication. I just have to tell people all this after I can't say. Radio communication, we got ambient brake control in the back. Anyway, so we're going to, right for the next little while, so we really well, we'll run down into White's, and we'll stop at White's so we can get off for a bit. And after White's, we drop downhill about 120 feet in elevation. So hear the air brakes coming on from time to time. Keep the train under control. Air brakes are great out there on the railway as our tracks do end at Lake Erie. We're not licensed by the Coast Guard, nor do we have a personal transportation license. Okay, so I was telling you that this railway was fairly busy during 1940s. It also was a school bus for the region. If you went to the one-room schoolhouse in Union or Stanley, that was great till grade 8. If you wanted high school, you jumped on the train and went to St. Thomas. If you wanted university, you stayed on the train and went to London. And so it was a school bus there for a long time. But as I mentioned, by the time the 1950s came around, people were found wealth and they had the cars and they had the highways. They stopped riding trains. Even the once-an-hour service wasn't convenient enough, so service was gradually cut back, and then in February of 1967 they shut down passenger service, and they thought they'd seen the last passenger train on the line. After that, it was a freight-only railroad. They finally bought some diesel locomotives. What had happened is when the big change came in the 1950s, where they changed all the current Ontario from 25 cycle to 60 cycle, they said that reduced the efficiency of the electric locomotives. To this day, no one has figured out what that meant. But it was, I think it was a good excuse to buy diesel locomotives from the new big employer in London, was General Motors diesel locomotives. So it operated with diesel locomotives and the occasional electric down here, right through till about 1965. And in 1965, they reached an agreement with the Canadian National Railway, and CN traded some land in London for this line, and they did a little work on it. They upgraded the tracks, they upgraded the bridges, they didn't put a lot of ties in, we found out, and they started running grain trains out of Port Stanley. Shortly after that, though, there was a washout that they repaired. They ran a couple of passenger trains down here in the early 70s, and in 1977 they had a washout and they got out of the train business in Port Stanley. 1982 was officially abandoned, and then the budget got this great idea. We might buy this thing and run it as a service railway. So sometimes they think it'd be better to keep the idea stage. So anyway, we went to the CNR and we said we wanted to buy a railroad. And they thought this was funny. 7 miles of track, they said no one ever tried this before. Okay, we'll sell it to you for $30 million. We said, okay, we'll buy it for $30. So we settled somewhere in between after several months of negotiation. Then we we went out to find what we bought. That was a little bit tricky because the weeds you see on either side, they came right across the tracks. There were trees growing between the rails. Most of the crosses were paved over and had up to a foot of asphalt and gravel over the rails. Then we had to be licensed by someone with the government. They said we had to be inspected by the provincial railway inspector, but they laid him off in 1932. They had replaced him, so that was a problem. So we had to find an inspector to inspect the railway, and then they had to find a body that would regulate our operations. They didn't know who to turn to, so they turned to the OMB, the municipal board. We have no idea why. They're responsible for buildings and houses and that. So they came and they told us that was great, but we couldn't let the trains go out after dark. We're not sure why. And then they said also we had to stop at every crossing, make sure the traffic is stopped where it's proceeded. So to speed things up, we put in flashing lights at a lot of crossings, and we sent them a letter. They said that's great, we put those in, but just make sure you stop in every crossing and make sure the traffic is stopped before you proceed, just so we go in the first place. Now we're regulated by Transport Canada, which they show up unannounced and inspect the tracks, the cars, the bridges, us, make sure our medical certificates are up to standard, make sure we have all our rules cards. And, you know, they could even be here with a radar gun checking train speed. So we never know when they're going to show up, but they've been great people to work with. I'm going to talk to the engineer again. Motor pushing a tank car with a big rail strapped across the front of it to rip down all the trees. Anyway, and we found out about a whole bunch of things we'd never been told about before. Liability insurance. We found out about property tax. All new stuff to us. We were in a little bit different situation. We went to go as a non-profit company, but no one seemed to want to give us any money, so we asked people if they want to buy shares in a railway, and suddenly they got excited, so we were able to raise enough money to make the purchase. So we are a private railway, all run by volunteers. And a lot of us are shareholders, but we've never received a dividend. We're waiting 27 years. We discovered about all those little things we needed to operate a railway, and we started running trains. We had to get some locomotives first. We had to go all around looking for those. Unimportant Stanley stuff was in museums or gone as a scrappers. Actually, there's one still a cottage in Grand Bend, and another one ended up in a restaurant in Aurelia, and one is operating near a museum near Guelph. This will ride one of the County cars. So the locomotives were a problem too. We found the one we got on the train today, L1. It was our first diesel. We got it in found a gravel pit in Paris, Ontario. We were switching gravel cars, and we ended up buying 3 locomotives from that pit. And Also, we had to get some coaches. Well, there wasn't much around. We started with an old Newfoundland boxcar. We converted into a coach. And then we started buying cabooses. The caboose on the train today, the one at the back end, the front end today, this trip, was built by Toronto Hamilton Buffalo Railway in Keene. So it's almost 100 years old. It's been a great caboose. Gone through a few changes. We used to have a big cupola on top, but they changed that about 1965. Okay, windows on the side. This is used around Hamilton. Also used in Brantford as their name flat. We use the train service up Brantford. We acquired this in the 1980s and turned it into a closed coach. Also, the car you're riding in, the middle car, the open car, was actually built as a caboose for the CNR. And when we get to White's, you'll see a big red caboose. That's what that car used to look like. Our volunteers got busy with the cutting torches and the paintbrushes to turn it into a open coach. And since then, we're acquiring equipment, you'll see lots of the CNRs that go by. And actually, we've got about 7 cars up in St. Thomas today on the Thomas Street. Those are our years ago on the old London Port Stanley, the freight trains were usually so heavy they couldn't get up the hill by themselves. So what happened, there was a siding right here just to the left or the east side. This was called white siding, and this is where trains could meet if they're running between St. Thomas and Port Stanley. Also for the freight trains, they could pull about half, they pull the train up as far as Union. They usually couldn't get much farther if the train was too heavy. So they leave half the train on the hill, take the front half up here to White's, put it in the side track, go back down the hill, grab the back half, bring it up here, put the train together, and they continue on their way to London. It's called doubling the hill, still used in railway practice, still fairly common when the road's too big for the hill.